in college, I'm pretty sure I went on a date with a serial killer. Let's get into it. And before I get into it, I just want to say there's going to be a lot of points in this story where you are literally going to kind of like palm yourself in the forehead and be like, what were you thinking, Tiffany? I know, I was dumb. I was also 21. We met out at a bar and had a really, really great conversation that night. And so exchanged numbers, we went on a first date and it was awesome. He picked me up in this super nice sports car, which this should have been my red flag because he literally didn't know how to open the door. First date went well, and then we were trying to plan our second date. I was in dead week at school, so it was the week before finals and had to be studying a lot, which slowed down our timeline. While I was studying one night, it was probably 10 p.m., we were chatting about how it was going. He was asking me if, he could bring me any food or anything, and I told him that I could just really go for a walk at 10 p.m. So he gets super excited, and he's like, yeah, let's go on a walk. And where do we go? The Gasworks. So he says, hey, I need to get gas. I'll be there in like 30 minutes or something like that. So I am getting ready. I tell, obviously, my roommates and my friends to watch my location because that's supposed to save me somehow. And literally an hour and a half goes by. I hear nothing from him. So then he finally texts me that he's there, and I had him pick me up at the apartment next door. In any case, he shows up in a really beat up 4Runner. And I don't care that it was a beat up car. It was just a really big switch from what he was driving on our first date. Immediately upon me getting in the car, he's already explaining away why he has this dirty beat up car. And he's like, oh, I have dogs and I just want them to ride, in this car and not my nice car and like ruin the seats and stuff. And I was like, okay. So we go to Gasworks. He cracks a joke about if this were Dexter, it would be the perfect spot to murder me. He also gets out of the car and goes, don't make fun of me. And I'm like, okay. He's like, well, I was so excited to see you that I'm wearing 2 different shoes. Now my spidey senses are kind of tingling. And as we start to go on this walk, I make it a point to say that my friends have my location. I also kind of lied and said my dad is a cop. And he got really weird. He was like, oh, I didn't know that. And then when I told him about the location thing, he's like, well, how accurate is it? And I was like, it's really accurate. And I showed him. He goes, oh, okay. And we're walking around. If you've been to Gasworks Park, there's one side that's like on the water kind of, and then there's this whole like dark side of the moon moment around the back of Gasworks Hill. We're walking around this hill, right? And so we're in the dark spot, and I'm just kind of like, I don't like this. This feels really weird. We get towards the water finally, and he's also at this point made multiple jokes about murdering me, and I'm like, this isn't funny, especially for the second time we're hanging out. Get back to the front of the hill, and there are some of the fire dancers are out there, and so I'm like, oh, like, let's look at the water, and I'm also plotting how I can say I need to go back home. He tries to kind of make a move to walk around the mountain again. I was like, we have already walked that. I'm good. And he goes, oh, you're very aware of your surroundings. Okay? Now the next part, this might be a moment where you're like, Tiffany, what were you doing? Asks if we can sit on the rocks that are against the water. And if you've been to Gasworks Parks, to get to the rocks, you kind of are away from civilization. Like, you're not really able to be seen if you're sitting on the rocks. I said yes. So we're sitting on these rocks, and I will say I did make sure that I was sitting on the one closest to the railing so that if I needed to run or anything, I could. He makes another joke about killing me. I really, at that point, like, started really feeling easy, right? And I was texting my friends to see if they could come and get me. And as I'm looking over at my phone, and I, out of the corner of my eye, see him kind of fiddling with something in his pocket, and it just made my stomach sink. I immediately popped up, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to go home. And he goes, so soon? I'm like, yeah, I need to study, trying to placate him. And he's like, well, I just didn't think you wanted to leave this soon. And I was like, yeah, I do. We walk out to the parking lot, and I'm trying to figure out a way to tell him that I'm not going to get in his car. I had left my purse in his car, so I knew I at least had to open the passenger door. And He is very angry, opens up his driver's side door, turns on his car, and is like looking at me expectantly. I open up the passenger side door, and as I reach in to grab my purse, tell me why the gas gauge was empty. The reason that he was late was because he needed to get gas. So tell me why the gas gauge was empty. You know that scene in Get Out where she says sink and it's like, ooh, that's how I felt. So I literally looked around, like I backed up and I started looking around to see if there was anybody there that could potentially help me. And there was this couple that was sitting in a car next to us. So I turned to them and I knocked on their window and I said, I don't feel safe. Can I wait with you until a ride gets here? They obviously said yes. The guy literally peeled out and sped off after I did that. I never saw or heard from him again. I blocked his number, and then I was terrified for weeks that he was going to show up at my apartment and try to murder me.
Give me the tea. What's the drama?
I'm like 90% sure I dated a serial killer. So I was listening to a true crime podcast, and then they were talking about this serial killer, obviously. And they said, oh, he was from this state. And I was like, okay, that's where my ex is from. And then they said, oh, and then he moved at this time. And I was like, oh, that's when he moved to Ohio. And then they were like, and he's 6'6". I was like, my ex is 6'6". And then they started describing his appearance. And I literally exactly how my ex looks. And I was like, oh, okay, getting a little weird. And then they said his first name. And wouldn't you know it, that's my ex's name. And I was just like, that's, it's a coincidence. It's probably a coincidence, And I started thinking about it. My ex is the one that got me into true crime. Because he was so fascinated with the mind of serial killers. Take with that what you will.
The Time I Dated a Murderer, Part 1. We meet on Match.com and all is going well. Until the third date. That's where it got weird. He picks me up in a rental car, and then he forgot to bring me flowers, and so we end up going to a grocery store, so he runs in to get some flowers, and I'm a very curious person, so I start looking in the glove compartment. And I find the official Hertz rental thing with his full name on it. So I just tuck that away and say, I'm going to Google him later. We end up going to a restaurant with my sister and some friends. Everyone orders a glass of wine except for him. Cool, to each their own. Later that night, he drops me off and walks me to my door. I invite him in. He comes in, and all my shoes are placed where you can see, like people are supposed to put their shoes. I take my shoes off, but he keeps his shoes on. We say our goodnights, and he leaves. I pull up my laptop and Google his full name. The first thing that comes up is a mugshot of his face and an 18-page document that depicts every detail of his court case. I'm freaking out. Dating a Murderer, Part 2. I read every detail on how he murdered his ex-girlfriend by stabbing her 17 times to death in her doorway. I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do, so I called 911. And they said, you're not in imminent danger, so we really can't help you. Next best thing, I called a women's shelter. Little known fact, you can call any women's shelter and ask them to check the criminal record of any guy. The lady on the phone is like, this isn't right. He's supposed to be serving a lifetime sentence in prison. I have no idea how he could be out. So she gives me the contact information for his parole officer. I call her the next day and she says he's in full violation, renting a car, going on dates, being on Match.com, being out and about. He's on a work release program. He's supposed to go to work and then go back to prison every single day. She tells me to go to court ASAP and get a restraining order. I do, and then police set up a perimeter around my house and around my work. The next night, he shows up at my house at 10.
People are really good at masking who they really are. So it's good to do due diligence before meeting someone, Like when someone approaches you and maybe you exchange contact, it's better to go to a date on a public space first, then get to know this person first. But what I know, people are good at hiding their other self, like masking who they really are. Do you have any insane dating stories? Tell us in the comment section. We are ready to hear. Let's continue watching.
Bad date story number 2. This one, I don't almost get murdered, so I feel like we're making progress in the 21 era of Tiffany. I met this guy through a mutual friend, and he was in the military back home for like some sort of leave or something. We went on a date to downtown Seattle, and it was really fun. We had some great food. We went to a record store. It was just kind of like one of those very chill, happy sort of dates. Everything was going very well. We decided to parlay that date into dinner later that night. I had to go back to my place to watch a movie and kind of wait out till dinner. On the way to my apartment, he suddenly goes, "Tiffany, can you please speed up?" And I'm like, "Okay, is everything okay?" And he goes, "I feel like I'm gonna be sick." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I can pull over." And I kind of like make a move to pull over. He's like, No. Like, just get me to your apartment. I'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, this poor guy is about to throw up in the car. Did he drink last night? Is he hungover? Is he sick? Did he have food poisoning? Like, thoughts are going through my head, okay? We get to my apartment, and the poor guy barely makes it to the bathroom before he ends up getting sick. I obviously understand that if he got sick, we're definitely not having plans for the rest of the day. So I offered, to let him sleep in my bed because I was sick. I felt bad. He ends up sleeping well into the evening, and I go in to check on him, and he's awake and saying that he feels so much better, so much more rested. So I kind of assumed it was a little bit of a hangover if he was feeling better so quickly. And he wanted to go back out to dinner. At that point, I had already kind of wound down for the day, but I didn't want to stop hanging out with him because he truly was given like green flags everywhere. Suggested that we just order food in and watch a movie from my apartment, and he was very down with that. That went well. He felt great. Food was settling awesome, and he ended up staying the night. In the middle of the night, I wake up and I hear the shower running. I'm like, that's weird. I turn my body because there is a stench going into my little nostrils, and I'm like, what is that? Turn my body, it quite literally shit the bed everywhere. Listen, I understand things happen, but wake a girl up. He literally did this, got in the shower, and didn't tell me. So what, I just roll into it? Is that what was going through your brain when this happened? I obviously was much nicer than the reaction I'm having now because it's been almost 10 years. So I took the sheets off. I went downstairs. That's where our laundry was. Put the sheets in the washer, changed the sheets out. And by the time I did all of that, I'd come back and he was out of the shower. And I, was like, hey, is everything okay? And he was really embarrassed, of course. So I felt super bad. And I just said, you should have woken me up. I could have, helped, or I don't know. I was just like, next time you just wake me up. And he goes, oh, there won't be a next time. Drift back off to sleep. And what do I find but waking up to a smell and the shower running again. I go through the process of changing my sheets again, and now I'm on my last pair of sheets. I'm a college student. I only had 2 sets of sheets, okay? Down to laundry. Pull out the old sheets, go back up. He's out of the shower. And I'm like, are you feeling okay? Do you want me to take you home? He goes, no, I feel fine. I don't know, just something's going on. And I was like, I totally understand that things happen. Would you mind if I laid a towel down if you're gonna stay over here? And he got super upset with me. And I think it just came from embarrassment. But he was like, why would you want to lay a towel down? I'm fine. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's the second time it's happened, but okay. So we go to sleep a third time. And a third time, I not only wake up to a smell again, I also wake up to him throwing up in the bathroom. So I'm like, okay, you're sick. We need to figure out what's going on. And so I go in to check on him, and he was puking up red. Granted, he had drinking red Gatorade, but at the time I was like, okay, maybe this is blood. So I'm taking you to the ER. Take him to the I'm so sorry. So I take him to the ER. We go back to the room. We're sitting there, they're doing kind of their intake. And the nurse is talking to him. And the poor guy shits himself again in his jeans. And he gets up and he just waddles to the bathroom and they have to give him a pair of shorts, and I felt super bad. Like, looking back, it was kind of funny. I never actually figured out what was wrong, like what sickness he had, but it is safe to say that after that little experience, we didn't really talk anymore.
I just got engaged to a man that just spent 13 years in prison, and he's been out for 5 months. So this is his first Valentine's Day since he was 19. He just moved into my house, and I just have to brag, I have never got flowers from a man before.
I couldn't get past these first couple of sentences. Did you say 13 years? Moved in with you? Engaged? Sometimes a man moves this quickly because he has skeletons in his closet. I'd like to know, what was he in prison for? Doing an awful lot for a man that you just met, and some men see the generosity in a woman, that nurturing nature, that desire for a woman to help a man to get on his feet, and they're attracted to that. They love that. Maybe give yourself some time to figure out if this man loves you or if he loves what you can do for him. There's many a man who is not above using a woman as a stepping stone, but you are no halfway house for random men. You're not a social worker, you're not a bank. Always tell women that it is a red flag when a man comes into your life and he needs access to what you have almost immediately. He has to almost immediately move in with you for whatever reason. He lost his apartment. He can't afford his rent. He's fresh out of prison. Just met you and he needs to borrow your car. He needs to borrow some money. The sweet and thoughtful ideas you have for Valentine's Day lead me to believe that you're a very kind-hearted person. And sometimes that kind-heartedness can be taken advantage of. I'm just asking you to be careful, because a man with nothing will help you lose everything.
Put a finger down if you've ever gone on a bumble date with a murderer. Punch yourself in the face if the victim was his own son. And yes, I have a filter on because if I didn't, you guys would probably call the police for a welfare check. This is the story all about how. So in 2018, I had just gotten out of a bad relationship and was not having a good time and needed something to do, keep me busy, fill the void, so Bumble it was. I matched with some guy, he doesn't live far from me, and he was blonde-haired, blue-eyed, stocky, cute, and I was like, okay, this could work. So we go on a date. I meet up with him, and I don't drink anymore, but he's like drunk. And I didn't really like him, but again, it kind of was just something to do in the summer. During the date, he's like, I might have a 4.5-year-old. I don't know yet. We're waiting for paternity. A few drinks in, of course, because who says that during the introductions? And I'm like, all right, whatever. Bar's low, my guy. He definitely was not my type, or I didn't really like him, but again, it was just entertainment. Exhibit A, I had to take a picture to show my friends because he's in need. My daddy's a lawyer starter pack. Like, generally, I'm gonna need at least 1 to 2 Chicago Bulls fitteds in your closet and at least 3 pairs of Jordans. So he tells me he teaches underprivileged kids in Baltimore math. I was like, do you want to come to Baltimore for the weekend? And me being an excellent decision maker, I was like, sure, what's the worst that can happen? Just very on par with my overall existence. So I'm driving there, and I'm an hour away from home in New Jersey, and my car starts billowing white smoke, and I had to pull over. I thought for sure I'm about to be in thousands of dollars of debt. I was in my Subaru car girl era, and my car always needed oil, so I figured something had finally happened. There she is on the side of Route 1, and there I am, down bad, waiting for my friends. So my car had to be towed an hour away, good times, and I told him I'm not coming, and he got super weird and was like, I'll get you a rental car. It was like 8 o'clock at night, and I just met you. Red flag. Stopped answering him after that, and then I got some creepy voicemails, and I was like, dodged a bullet. Like, what is up with this guy? And then one day I was at school, and I posted a story on Instagram. So you can't really read what I wrote, but I put, is today the day I don't make it out alive? And he says, one can only hope. It's crazy. I thought you weren't a bleep. Fast forward some years later, I'm scrolling on Facebook, and this photo is going around the internet saying, man wanted for killing his son. And I'm like, that's him. That's the guy from the date. That got really weird. So I guess he did have a son because evidently he murdered him. So as if this wasn't the tip of the iceberg, the overall craziest part of the story is my car goes to the mechanic, and I'm like, again, screwed. I think my car just blew up, and I get a call going, hey, car's all good. You just put too much oil in it. So yeah, that's the story of how my car faked its own death and I never made it to a second date with a murderer. And now I watch him on Court TV on TikTok and I hope he rots.
I've seen people going to date with people, and then afterwards they learn that these guys are not who they really claim they are. You can be out there with a fugitive, a convicted felon, a homeless person, faking lifestyle. People even borrow cars. People even borrow houses from their friends, and then they use them to entice you. And maybe you are tricked by their lifestyle. Like, this guy is who they say they are. But in the greater essence, these people are other people. They have other characters they don't want you to know. Or maybe you can meet a lady, maybe they killed their husband, and maybe you get engaged with them, and maybe later you know, or maybe later police come to you, they tell you, oh, this lady is wanted for murder charges. And maybe you have been with this person for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Or maybe you get to meet a person and then you are engaged to them. And then maybe after some years, you thought, oh, this guy is wanted for certain murders which happened maybe many years ago. Right? It happens in most cases. And maybe you are dragged into those cases. It's chaotic. Yeah, I've seen these cases. I've seen these things happen. People getting into relationship with people, and these people hiding who they really are. I think maybe later in life, because the truth must reveal itself, the true character of these guys gets revealed. So I was watching a video the other day, and I saw a lady making a video claiming that sometimes women have to lie to survive. And she was explaining how she met a guy in Thailand when she was there as a tourist, and they started talking, they started conversing, and maybe they got tipsy and decided to go to his room. And in the wee hours of the night, this lady woke up and he started searching through these guy's items. This guy was a serial killer. Because from his documents, and maybe he had seen somewhere in the news, this guy was a wanted fellow. He was evading security agencies. He was evading them. The law enforcement agencies was evading them. So when this guy woke up, he met like this lady was terrified. So he had to ask this lady, what's wrong? And the lady had to lie that maybe he has nightmares, he dreams of people coming to him at night, seeing shadows at night. So that's why he had to wake up, and she was terrified, you know. So to cure these effects, she has to go to a chemist and buy some medications. So this lady asked this man, can you please take me outside to buy these medications? They agreed. So when they got outside, this lady ordered an Uber, and she went away. And that's how she escaped this man. This man was a wanted criminal, and this lady had to lie to escape. So ladies out there, if you are dating, be careful who you are out with, and please, sometimes learn to lie to save yourself. Until next time, adios.